Hey, this is Tim again for Sentient Cinema, and I'm continuing the series of videos on the creation of the Uploader teaser trailer. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the music that I wrote for the trailer and kind of how I put that together. So I'm back in Logic Pro 9, which is sort of my go-to, and I've got, let's see, I've got mostly virtual instruments, which is how I created the music. There's a few layers up here of actual recorded audio and sound effects, but for the most part, I kept things virtual, meaning I'm playing instruments that are they're all software based and through MIDI notes. And what that means is I can set the tempo at any point and then change that tempo later if I feel like the music's a bit too slow or the pace isn't right. So going through and creating this, I started at a certain pace that was based actually on the original temp music that I cut the video stuff to, because I needed to have some music to cut the video to get the timing how I wanted it. And based on that music that I used, I originated that's where the tempo for the music I created came from, which was about 102 beats per minute. It originally started a little bit faster than that, though, so I felt like I needed to slow it down just a tad. And using virtual instruments and using MIDI notes to control those instruments meant I could adjust the tempo later as I saw fit, which is a good piece of flexibility to have. Now you can use obviously any program you want to make your music. I highly recommend Logic, but if that's too expensive, there's great cheaper programs like Reason, for example, that will let you do all of the same kind of stuff. The interface is quite different, but again, you can do all the same kind of thing, and hopefully the sort of ideas that you might get from this you can apply in whatever software you're using. So I'm just going to go instrument by instrument and kind of explain why I used the instruments I used and how I approached actually writing this little piece. So I wanted the vibe of the trailer to be kind of ominous, kind of music that builds and builds and builds to a crescendo, and then to a point where music instantly stops, and that's the point where the title of the film is revealed. So it's all about building that tension, building that sort of ominous vibe throughout the length of the music, and then cutting it as the title is revealed. So first off, I wanted to create some ambience for the entire thing to live under. So this is less about music and more about sort of sound and backing sound. So you'll see here I've got a sculpture virtual instrument, and this is built into Logic, and what it does and what it's really good at is sort of emulates things like woodwinds and any kind of stringed instrument, and it has physical models that it bases its sounds on. So I chose this this pad. It's called Noise Sweeper. It sounds like this. There we go. So that's what the sort of bass ambient layer sounds like. And on top of that, I put this one, which is just a simple, very simple bass note that sort of accompanies that ambience. And this is meant to give a bit of bass presence and almost the artificial hum that I spent time removing from the dialogue. I wanted to add that back in after all was said and done, because I felt like it contributed to the vibe I was going for, which is sort of digital ominous, as I've mentioned. Then I wanted some percussive elements, so I started adding things like this. And this is another sculpture instrument that is based on what's called saturated air. So it's kind of like an air puff sound. It sounds like this. Again, another thing meant to sort of add atmosphere to the piece. And then I started wanting to get into the actual music side of things and put some notes in there. So I used a tool or a instrument called soft pluck string in that same sculpture instrument in Logic, and that sounds like this. And that's sort of setting the melodic vibe to the teaser, and those are the notes that everything else is based on, which we start to layer in other instruments sounding like this. And then I bring in some strings. And even some brass and a Gregorian ensemble choir, again to add to the ominous feeling. And then I needed to work on that crescendo aspect that I was trying to go for. So bringing everything together along with some actual percussion, which sounds like this. And that's timed with the reveal of the title. And one thing I did that you'll notice is I brought in a temp render of the visuals, and Logic is great because it will allow you to play that any QuickTime file along with in sync with your music. So the music ended up being a slightly different tempo, so it's slightly out of sync with the version I rendered, but that's extremely helpful, clearly, to make sure that the music you're writing is timed to the visuals as you would like it to be. And all of that stuff together sounds like this. And one thing I'll mention is the building of that crescendo. I did add some additional sound effects to really sell it, and that's what you hear here. Ending with this this nice bassy crash sound that I found to tie everything together with the visuals of the uploader title sort of exploding into existence. So clearly, all of that is it's pretty simple setup actually. There's not a lot of complicated things once you figure out the sort of vibe you're going for, and you pick some instruments. Pick your base melody that everything's going to be based on, and then go to town layering things together, and you'll see as I look through my mixer channels here, I've got buses with reverb and delay set up so that I can add reverb and delay evenly across all of the channels that I apply it to. Lots of other track automation going on, and panning from left to right is very important because it opens up the space when we listen to things on headphones, or even on a regular TV without a surround sound system, we still have two channels that we can work with, and it's good to if you're just doing a stereo mix like I did for this teaser, make use of those two channels, the left and right channels, so that you can spread your sounds apart, which means you can basically put more interesting things into your composition, that if kept all in the center channel might get too muddy, but when you split things out left and right, you can your brain and your ears can still focus on the different sounds because they're coming in different ears, and it all builds into a sort of space and environment that your music and your piece sits in. So that's it for the construction of the music for the Uploader teaser. I hope you enjoyed this video. Tune in next time on sentientcinema.com for a discussion of bringing all of these bits and pieces that we've seen in the other videos together in Final Cut Pro for the final conform and the final rendering of the teaser for the web. I'll see you then. Bye.